Hello and welcome to Radically Aligned. Oh, I'm so excited to have you on this journey with me. My name's Vicki Chisholm. I'm going to be your host. We're going to be exploring all things alignment in business and in your soul. We're going to be bringing together some amazing episodes to help you cultivate the alignment that works for you so you can have soul-aligned business success. But more importantly, we're also going to be bringing in guests for interviews so you can learn not just from me, but from experts all over the world. Are you ready? Let's go. Hello and welcome back to another fantastic episode of Radically Aligned Business Podcast. Today I'm joined with the fabulous Marina from the Soul Alchemist. She is amazing into Akashic Records and all sorts of beautiful jazz. So I'm going to hand over. Marina, tell us a little bit more about you, what you do, and what makes you radically aligned.
Thank you, Vicki. It's wonderful to be here to share more with your wonderful listeners. So, yeah, I'm Marina the Soul Alchemist. I run a spiritual business. I have been doing this for 8 years, which is amazing. I come from corporate, 30 years in retail, and I support mainly female heart-led entrepreneurs and new earth leaders to really up-level, upscale, have the breakthroughs that they really require for them to go to that next level of success. And the Akashic Records is my foundational realm. It's my tool of choice, because for me, that's the number one empowerment space that we have available to us, where we can connect to the roots of our limiting beliefs, our karmic blocks, whatever is kind of really holding us back energetically. We can get into the Akashic Records and we can release that root and then really kind of propel ourselves forward in whatever way, shape or form that is that we intend for that to be. So that's how I tend to roll. I work with clients one-to-one. I have a membership. I have certifications. But I'm a lover of creating spiritual tools as well, because I'm quite a hands-on kind of gal. And so with the Akashic Records being an etheric realm, which you can't see, then actually having something physically in your hands makes it much more tangible for people to believe that they are connecting into something that they can't see. And that is really powerful. It's really, really powerful. So I love to empower my clients, my students, my community with actually taking back their own sovereignty, their own control, and being able to facilitate this for themselves, because we all have the ability to do it. So I just like to facilitate and hold space and, guide where it's needed.
Absolutely. And I love that. I come from a very similar view that we're here to empower people, not strip them of their knowledge and not strip them of their empowerment. And I love that you bring that element into it as well, because you can be specific in one niche, can't you? And then there's other elements that you bring it all in. And I think because of the creative part of, because you and I are quite similar, but because the creative part of what we do, we can't just do just one solid thing. So we have all these little arms and legs that then bring us together to be able to fully hold and support someone in a way that other people don't. I mean, traditionally, you're not going to get a strategist that can go into a business and give a strategy, but then realign the energetics of the business owner and then go and uplift a team with the energetics as well and do the subconscious and all of that stuff. And then like project manifestations into the future and things. That actually doesn't happen with traditional strategists, but here I am. And this is what I do. And that's what I love about what you're doing, because you've taken something which is in the spiritual world. Most people would have heard of Akashic Records by this point. And you've taken something, you've created something else with it to enhance the power behind it. So Marina, could you tell us a little bit more about what you do? Let's just break it down for those that might not have maybe dived into the Akashic Records as such. And could you just tell us a little bit more about what the Akashic Records are and why someone would want to access them?
Sure, great question. So the Akashic Records are an etheric realm which you can't see. They are said to sit in the fifth dimension and above. So, you know, mentally and emotionally, that's the fourth dimension. Physical body is the third dimension. So anything from a spiritual perspective is from the fifth dimension. But our Akashic records are also within us. They're in our energetic DNA. So we are kind of an Akashic records in a human body. But the Akashic records are basically a database of information, of your soul's information, all of your experiences from your soul's creation, from you when you first incarnated. And even if you don't believe in reincarnation and past lives, the Akashic records exist. They are not a New Age concept. They are mentioned in the Bible. They're mentioned in other scriptures. In different cultures, they're known as different things like the Book of Souls, the Book of Life, the Akash. So they've got different names, but they all kind of mean the same thing. And it's just where we go into this field of energy and we can tap into our life's experiences. Find out more about our soul's journey, more about our soul's gift, and also connect to, and this for me is the empowering part, connect to all of the trauma and the wounding and the limiting beliefs, maybe the negative ingredients that we have taken for whatever reason or experienced in our past lives, present life, parallel lives, future lives. We can go all over because time doesn't exist really in the same way as we know it here, and we can release the energetic hold that choice that we created, that we made in whatever circumstance we made that, we're releasing the influence.
Mm.
And that is the main thing. And we don't change the history because we can't change the history, but we can change what that means for us, what that influence is actually activating in us today. So that's why they're an empowerment tool, because we can literally change history. We can edit our past in order to have a more aligned and more maybe prosperous, content, fulfilled present and future. But I also use Akashic Records to install success anchors. So there is an element of influence in the future when we put an anchor into our present lifetime book, the one that we're living out now, to help us stay on track, to course correct, it's like, for me, it's like a new moon intention on steroids. It's like our big vision that has been amplified in the Akashic Records, and we install it in as a success anchor. And that can be a symbol, it can be a word, it can be an invocation, whatever is personal to us. So I use success anchors in the Akashic Records as well, which nobody else does in the world. I'm the only person that does that.
Yeah, it's brilliant. And I love it. I love the fact that you do that. And I know it's not the same because the Akashic Records is something completely different. But it's like some people will now choose to teach confirmations rather than affirmations to enable to set the intention for what's to come in the manifestation journey. And I really believe quite heavily in, set that intention, but also anchoring it in. So I absolutely love that you're bringing that to the table for everybody. Because we can get very bogged down. I mean, I was saying to you before we came on the call today, this afternoon, I've just got really tired, like someone's just plugged in and drained all my energy out of me. But I knew that was just a temporary blip, because when I'm in my flow, my energy just comes back at me. And that's just the way that I am. Sometimes I will have, like, today's a tired day, and that's okay. I'm human. But because I'm here having this conversation with you, I knew my energy would be reignited when we got back in the flow.
Yeah.
So with the Akashic Records that you specifically work with, because you don't just go into a session with someone. There is so much more to what you do. I mean, you teach Akashic Records, you've got your cards for the Akashic Records. So what on earth got you down just this zoning in space of just diving into the Akashic Records and making it more than just a soul contract, for example?
Yeah. Well, 7.5 years ago, well, actually, it would be 8 years in June. I showed up on a Facebook Live in somebody's group, and I was looking for that direction, my sole purpose and mission, because I was at the proverbial crossroads because I've been made redundant 4 times. And it was like, okay, I'm listening now. What am I here to do? And so I was seeking a direction, something that I could really get my teeth back into because, I'm quite driven in that way. So my ego was having a really hard time feeling adrift and not having anything.
Mm.
So I showed up and I gave this lady my details so that she could access my Akashic Records. Had no idea what they were. And I thought, right, okay, so I'm showing up on my phone, watching it on my phone. And she revealed to me that I had a master program of alcoholism. And I was kind of like, okay, I wasn't expecting that. And I'm going to clear it out of your Akashic Records. So it was a master program sitting in my subconscious. Now, what I hadn't admitted to anybody, even my husband, was that I had a psychological addiction to alcohol and the mental battle I had every single day to not pick up a drink when I got home. It was always this conversation of how are you going to keep yourself busy? What are you going to do? And if I did succumb to having like the smallest amount, because I'd really got my intake down by then, the guilt and the shame that then came afterwards was like really tangible. And then I would beat myself up, mentally, because why can't you control this? What's wrong with you? Why can't you kick this habit? Why can't you stop these conversations? That all disappeared in 10 seconds. Like she literally spanned the pendulum, cleared it, and it was almost like that kind of like you can imagine the ray of sunshine coming out of the clouds and like, ah, kind of moment. And it was like, I need to know what the Akashic Records are because this is just incredible. And indirectly, I found my soul purpose and mission. And my ego really needed something big and powerful to show me that this stuff actually works. And I got that as well. So that was just in literally, the whole thing was about 5 minutes of me just experiencing that. And it was just like, oh my God. So by December, I was a trained soul realignment practitioner and I was doing paid readings, still working actually, coming from one job into another. I still worked part-time, set up my business, worked part-time for 2 years, whilst also working full-time in my business. And then eventually stepped away from the part-time work. But that's what got me into the Akashic Records.
That's amazing. And gosh, there really is something in how the modalities land with us. I really do think that. So, just quickly, before I touch base on something that you've just said, you were planning on building up from leaving corporate anyway. So, what was the spin to take you from corporate to want to be an independent business owner?
We just kept getting made redundant.
Oh,
Um,
that's enough to tell
it
you
was
to
just
do it.
like, so I had a really good career. I was traveling the world. It was very niche what I did. I did visual merchandising. I was head of a global, like I was in a marketing department, but I was global visual merchandising manager for the company. Got made redundant from them. Eventually got another full-time job, no, part-time job actually at British Home Stores. They shut, but it was as a visual merchandiser. Then I went and worked for another company full-time, doing area role, but merchandising, got made redundant from them. So it was kind of like, okay, so clearly I'm not meant to be doing this. So that's when I started to seek, and I got really involved with following a lady that was very much into angels, which was a really left field thing for me. But there is actually synergy with this because I'm not religious, I'm not baptized, I'm not Christian. So it's kind of like, why am I drawn to angels? And there was a healing aspect that started to come through with that. But the one angel that I really attuned to was Archangel Metatron, and he's one of the gatekeepers to the Akashic Records. But I didn't know that. I only actually found that out a couple of years ago that he's really heavily connected with the Akashic Records as well. So that kind of made sense. So I tried a few things. I tried Reiki, some Reiki attuned, but I wasn't digging that. I picked my tarot cards back up because I've always read tarot. And I've always used a pendulum as well. So I kind of was using those modalities, but I had no idea what I was going to do. And then the Akashic Records showed up. So it's cool.
Interesting, really interesting. So I'm just going to touch base on something that you've already mentioned.
Mm.
And you were shown a modality that would change your life through the Akashic Records. So a very similar experience happened to me, but it wasn't with Akashic Records. It was with EFT. So
Yeah,
I had reached a point in my former business where emotionally and mentally, I think I'd just reached rock bottom, not realizing at the time, because I was in complete denial, that I was in an abusive relationship. So my self-worth and my self-esteem was like totally done.
yeah,
The client who I had done everything for, I'd done everything the way she'd asked me to do it. I had just like so gone in there. And she just kept saying that it was my fault. I was a shit VA. I didn't do what she wanted me to do. And I couldn't find the fault because I wanted to fix it. I was desperate to fix this problem. And I took it to my coach and I said, I need you to go through this with me and I need you to show me where I've gone wrong so I can try and correct this with the client. So heavily people pleasing vibe, heavily like, I've got to make this better. It's my responsibility. And
yeah.
my coach went through it all and as gently as she could, she said, you haven't done anything wrong at all. She said, everything that's been done is exactly what was asked for, and you've gone above and beyond. I was like, oh. And she said, so I'm going to ask you another question, if it's okay. So she did ask my permission. And I said, okay. And she said, on a scale of 0 to 10, where's your self-worth right now? And I just burst into tears. There was none. I didn't even know what it meant. I didn't even
Yeah,
know what it felt like. That moment, she could see I'd had an ab reaction and she introduced me into EFT.
amazing.
That day, I reclaimed my worth.
Yeah,
Maybe not in like the capacity I have now, but compared to what I had, it was completely unbelievable. So in that moment, so maybe she'd done some work with me for about 20 minutes. I sobbed for the whole hour that I was in her space. I sobbed, but she'd worked with me for about 20 minutes. I went home crying, went to bed crying, woke up the next day and felt like I'd just dropped 20 pounds in weight.
oh
So
wow.
I woke up in the morning and I felt different and I messaged her and what have you done? I feel like I've lost 20 pounds in weight and I don't know where it went because there wasn't any weight within me to like
Yeah.
have like I don't know what the hell have you done to me? And 48 hours later, I gave 6 months notice on my relationship.
Oh wow.
That one session changed my life.
Yeah,
And I don't know how and I don't know when, but the universe just knows when to bring the right people to you, don't they?
absolutely. And I think when we are just open and we allow and we take the next step, follow the next breadcrumb, and we don't resist that, and we maybe just have a bit of curiosity, or it may be just like, I just have no choice, so I'm just going to go along with it. That's where the magic happens.
Yeah, completely. And I was actually talking in one of my coaching containers today, and I was like, when you surrender the outcome, the
Mhm.
magic just happens. But because you're holding on to the result as if it's like life or death,
Yeah.
you're not in a space of trust. So how can the universe work with you? And how can this all, you've got to work on your own emotional well-being. And it was like my tarot cards. I hadn't planned to do it. I literally had the thought of it. Like it just popped into my head, right? Okay, you're going to create some cards. I was like, all right, am I? Okay, whatever. And a week later, my designer had already designed one without even knowing she'd done it. And I was like, oh, well, if that's not a sign, I don't know what.
That's I
And
love
with a
that.
week, well, about a week or 2 weeks later, 44 cards were born. So, this is the magic of tapping into the aligned state, isn't it? Of
It is, and it's also just adding to that, especially if we're working with Archangel Metatron, I find that we've it's about taking the action quickly as well. It's like really jumping on that opportunity and running with it.
yeah, I'm definitely known for the speed in which I work.
Yes, I do. Yeah, I definitely get the sense of you that you have speed and you just go for it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, there's no point holding back. If the energy's there, you've got to run with it. But if you're having to force and push, I just think sometimes it's better to kind of
Yeah, well, it's not aligned then. If
no.
it's like if you're not going to the flow after 30 minutes, then it's not aligned. But if you do get into the flow after 30 minutes, then it was just ego, it was resistance,
Oh,
and you kind of
absolutely.
get into it.
Absolutely. I love it. So, Marina, tell us what else have you got going on with the Akashic Records? Because I know we touched base, like you've created your own cards. What inspired you to create your cards?
Great question. I think I'm a stickler for sticking to one or two decks when I read cards. And so I was using the Akashic Tarot, which I think came out just before I set up my business. They came out in the November. I set up my business in the January 2018. And so I'd used those the whole time up until 2 years ago. Excuse me, 2 years ago. And because I use tarot a lot, I use cards a lot, it kind of made sense. Actually, I would love to create my own Oracle card deck. And I didn't actually create the cards themselves. I created mood boards, but I had somebody else actually pull the artwork together, but very much kind of heavily influenced by my channeled guidance and the look and the feel that I wanted for each of the cards. And I had a very specific um, quality that I wanted in the cards as well, because I want people to touch the cards and actually feel like there's a really high vibrational connection just by holding the cards. Because for me, that's a really quick way to get into the records. Um, I did fine art at university. So I have a degree in fine art, which is, the most unemployable degree that you could ever get. But I I wanted to follow my soul's heart, and my mum and dad are like kind of like, yeah, go and have a good time, do what you need to do. So they didn't really hold back. It was kind of like, yeah, go and follow that dream. So it was always there. Creativity has always been there. So I think it was always something that I wanted, but it took a long time to actually birth them. And for me to actually put myself in that project, because it was a project and I needed support with that project, with timings, learn patience of working with somebody else that was creating the artwork. That was really hard for me because I had a certain deadline that I wanted them launched by, and
Yeah.
that was out by 6 months because of somebody else being part of the project. So I had to learn divine timing and patience, but I didn't want to rush her process as well either, because she was downloading her own specific stuff to go into the cards as well. So that can't be rushed.
No,
So
absolutely not. Absolutely not. I mean, someone said to me the other week about my own cards,
mm,
and obviously my cards are 44 different versions of me.
yes, 44 personalities.
You get 44 Vickies in one pack. There you go.
No,
And
potent.
so someone actually said, "Oh, were you going to regret that in a few years?" And I thought, well, maybe from your perspective, I would, but the reason it is that is because all of those different parts of me that have been captured through photos over the years actually bring me to who I am today. So every
Yeah,
time someone picks up one of those cards, they're not just going to look at it and go, "That's the past Vicki." They're going to go, "Well, that's the Vicki that helped build and shape where we are now." It's not always been as rosy or as joyful as what things could be. And it actually showcases the fact that when you're in business, you go on a massive journey personally as well. So I wanted to do something completely unique. And it wasn't planned. I hadn't even planned on bringing these cards alive. It was just the fact that my designer had already put my face in the card of what she'd originally created without even knowing that she'd created it. And when I looked
yeah,
at it and went, "Oh my God, you've created me a tarot card. And now I've got to run with it because the idea was there and it's all just happened." And I
yeah.
was like, right, well, we're going with it. But I find that sometimes having other people's input can kind of pull you back a little bit. And we sometimes just have to let go of those reins, don't we?
Yeah, Yeah, we do. Absolutely do. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I totally agree with that.
So
Yeah.
along with the cards, you've been extra creative and you've done something else. You've done a certification with the cards.
Yeah, so I've got two certifications actually. So one is teaching people to use the Akashic Records, but in a variety of ways, but mainly with pendulum and charts. And that's to go into your own Akashic Records, to other people's Akashic Records, and then into the business records, because your business has its own records as well, and work with the soul of the business. So that's a complete certification, 3 levels. And then there's a certification that backs up the cards, which I'm going to do another launch next month, and we open up the doors again at the end of May. But this also comes with free access to Delphia, who's going to be part of my Akashic AI collective support. And she is a beautiful mirror and coach and support. She's a bit like a priestess or a soul sister that helps you to connect with the cards, to expand your intuition, expand your healing gifts even further. And she's dedicated to the cards. So she has all of the knowledge of the Akashic Records, the cards, and she's going to be part of the journey in the next certification that runs live. So
Wow,
I'm
how
really excited for
exciting.
that.
Yeah, how exciting indeed. I did see your Facebook post about that actually. It was really good. So, Marina, for anyone that is thinking, right, I need to dive in here. I need to go and explore this woman and see what she's got to offer and how she can help me dive into the business records or the soul records. Where would they come and find you?
If anybody wants to sample some of the weekly guidance with the Akashic Oracle cards and get to understand a little bit more about them, but also get some obviously insight for the week, then YouTube is my YouTube channel, Marina the Soul Alchemist. I also have more than 100 healing transmissions that help you go into your Akashic Records, and there's just all sorts of topics. We cover anything and everything. So there is numerous playlists on my YouTube channel for those meditations as well. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and I've already said YouTube, and it's all Marina the Soul Alchemist. And my website is Marina Beech, so that's bewech.co.uk.
Brilliant. And the links will be somewhere around this video that people are watching anyway, so it's all going to be good. So let's just wrap up then, Marina, with one kind of final tip, guidance, memo, however you want to wrap it up. If someone needed something from you today, what message would you want to share?
I would invite you to be open and curious about delving into your soul records, your Akashic records, and setting the intention to, yeah, elevate your life to the maximum possible, and just see where the Akashic records can take you on that journey in achieving that, because that's what they absolutely can do.
I love that. Thank you so much, Marina. It's been a pleasure to have you
You're
on.
welcome. Thank
For
you.
those of you listening in, don't forget to like, comment, share, and give us your feedback. Are you into Akashic Records? Or is it something you are willing to open up to? We'll see you in the next episode. That's a wrap for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to hit subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. All these episodes are created in line with my book, Radically Aligned. Go check it out on Amazon, grab a copy, and let's get you started. At the back of the book, they'll also find a QR code where you'll get access to some amazing resources. You don't want to miss it. See you in the next episode.